And we are going. This is no edits here.
Okay, I'm recording.
So who's doing it? Like,
Okay,
oh,
I'll do
shit.
it. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, can you do
Hey
it?
guys, hey guys, it is Crypto Wendy O here, and I am with BlockchainBrad and my very dear and near friend, CryptoLove. So we are going to be just talking as friends because we're all very good friends. And yeah, so we're excited for you to join us, and let's get this thing started.
Awesome. Thanks, Wendy, for that. Always the cool one. Always Randall, CryptoLove, the cool one of the group.
Yeah, he is the Buddha and of all crypto, I think. Most positive person ever and nicest guy ever. Well, except you, Brad. But
oh, cheers. Nice save there. And it's nice to meet you, obviously, as well, Wendy. You are well known in the space. You have a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge, and it's just cool to hang out with you guys as well. I've known CryptoLove for such a long time, and my challenge is to learn how to shut up and listen. So I'm going to really try that today.
I struggle with that too because I just talk.
Yeah, it might be symptomatic.
That makes it easy for me. I'll just sit back. You guys let me know when this is done.
No. There's no Zen in the house today for you, sir. You've got to be one of the contributors.
Yes. So, how's everybody? Go ahead.
I just want to say, Wendy, GFY.
Yes.
And Brad, always a pleasure.
All the GFYs. All the GFYs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess like I wanted to ask you guys about drama and stuff that's been happening as well, because normally I don't talk about it. Normally I'm the boring one, the boring blockchain Brad. But lately it's been really interesting, and I can't help but get sucked into some of the stuff that we've been seeing on Twitter. We've been seeing a few different fights going on with regard to claims being made about Bitcoin, what it does, what it doesn't. So have you guys noticed anything going on about that sort of conversation? And what do you think about it?
Well, there was a gentleman that called our whole community basically garbage. I can't pronounce his name. What's his name?
I think it's Nuriel. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, he blocked me because I saw that big old troll thing that he posted, and I just posted because I always try to keep things very neutral, but I just commented just here for the comments, and I got blocked. So I was like, yes.
I think you tweeted about it, didn't you?
A big high five.
Yeah.
Yeah. Boom. Yeah, I mean, our community, like at the end of the day, we do have our faults. We're a bunch of degens in different ways, but at the end of the day, our community is very supportive and very loving. And like, if you need something, you can like literally DM anybody, and somebody will come help. Like, I met Love at Voice of Blockchain. I needed help because I was going to do a live interview, and we knew each other less than 24 hours. He's like, "Sure, I'll help you. I'll support you. I got you." And it's like, he gave his time and he was willing to come and help. And, I feel like a lot of people are like that in crypto. So I don't know what this guy's deal is.
Yeah, I feel the same way, having known CryptoLove for such a long time as well, without trying to shill him. I had the same experience. Is often, when it comes to technology even, and just making sure these things like this opportunity to speak in this context, it happens because of people like him, and obviously you, Wendy, too, where we can get together, have conversations that are really robust and diverse. And what I like about it most is that we don't have to have the same opinion, but the crypto space is so welcoming and so open generally to that diversity. But when someone like this guy comes along, it can have such a major impact, a very detrimental one, to the overall ecosystem itself, for its growth, its potential, because it can be taken seriously when he has such a serious role to play in that mainstream world. So, I had did a bit of research on him, and many people would know that he is a well-known economist. He arguably or allegedly predicted the 2008 economic crisis. So it worried me a little bit that he was actually had a formal role, and he went and spoke about things like Bitcoin and the overall ecosystem formally in a very in a hearing whereby his voice mattered apparently in that context. So yeah, it's not to be taken lightly, I think, what he had to say.
Yeah. I mean, whenever somebody predicts a big thing, I always want to see the other stuff that they missed, because you know what, a broken clock is right twice a day, and like, maybe he did predict that, and maybe he was right about that. But, most of the millionaires in the world, they say you only have to hit a home run once, and they fail over and over and over and over and over again. So yeah, he's doing that. I do agree with you that he's saying some nasty stuff, but I think he's doing it just to get attention, just basically to make money. Like I mean, I didn't know too much about what was going on. I watched a video by BitBoy, and he was talking about how Nouriel's probably one of the biggest trolls we've got out there, one of the biggest crypto trolls, and he's doing it to pad his own pockets. And it makes a lot of sense, because what more passionate communities do you have out there other than the cryptocurrency community? You say something anti-crypto, and you're going to have a whole bunch of people against you. You say something pro-crypto, like we saw with Crypto Mom, SEC Hester Pierce, and she has a whole bunch of people backing her. All right, so we have like a very strong community. So he's just doing this to kind of get the backing of the people, so that now all these other anti-crypto entities, aka banks, he can go speak at their conferences, he can go make money, he can go all do that stuff. Right. So I think he's just kind of doing it to be the anti-person. And it's like, you ever have a conversation with someone where no matter what you say, they just don't listen to it, they just really don't care? That's kind of what it is. He's spoken with a bunch of really smart people, like from Celsius, Alex Mashinsky, very smart guy. He's spoken with him, they've had debates, and he just doesn't, I mean, he doesn't listen, he doesn't care, because it's not his agenda to actually understand the points of cryptocurrency. He's just against it completely because it's making him money.
And I think what's important for us to follow along in that respect, what you're saying, is to make sure that we know how he is capitalizing, if he is indeed capitalizing on his controversial position, because that would also deflate some of his own argument, if that's what he's doing, because it means he's driven by, ironically, the capital that he can really attain because of his own viewpoint. If it is something that is genuinely what he thinks, I guess that is different, and I don't know how we would actually know that, because again, he does have his own economic position, he has his own perspective, and it's valid that he does so, that he has the right to speak. But in the context of crypto, I agree with you. I think that majority of people are supportive of the ecosystem. Everyone has different views about different aspects of it, but overall, obviously we want to see this whole economy grow, and the potential of the tech to grow.
Well, let me first off and say, so you guys said that he supposedly predicted the bubble bursting of 2008, 2009. Okay, so has he been in the spotlight since then, or was that his last big thing that he was able to capitalize on? Because if that's the case, then he's looking for the next big thing to get involved in and to get traction and to get media attention. So that can be part of his motivation. Number two, we are a very well-known community, and we are very close and whatnot. And one of the things that I've noticed about in our community, you can be into masternodes, you can be into trading, you could be into mining, you could be into fundamental analysis, you can be into whatever, anything you want. But no matter what our community, we're very strong and we're very united. So that's also getting him, recognition as well. And they always say publicity, like any type of publicity is, it's publicity, it's good, but regardless if it's good or bad. And then another thing too, is I get that he's old school, traditional finance, traditional economics, but with crypto is changing that. And a lot of these people that are very set in their ways and textbook smart when it comes to traditional finance and traditional economics, I believe that cryptocurrency will change a lot of those. And I think as we become more and more mainstream, I think that a lot of the people, the professors and the people that are teaching these things, they're going to have to modify their thought process and some of these teaching techniques, because it's going to change. It's not going to be applicable to everything. Like obviously, like some of the laws and the mathematics behind like economics, that's going to be there, but the different types of cycles and the different types of things and market behavior we're seeing, it's going to vary. It's going to have to be changed, because this is a brand new industry. So that's
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you, especially in terms of how it's going to change economics, because up until this point, money has always followed force. So like right now, military power, that forms governments, and then they print the money. Before that, it was kings and different stuff who conquered lands. They printed money, or they kind of held the gold. Well, nowadays, there are large entities that own a lot of cryptocurrency, but in general, it is the idea of giving the power back to the people. So we, in fact, vote with our checkbook. We don't rely on these larger entities to tell us what to do. So I can't wait to see what that's going to do with economics.
And it's interesting too, because Alex raised a good point when he was debating, because you mentioned that before, CryptoLove, with regard to he discussing this further with Nouriel. And he was harping back to the first determinations of the US currency itself. in the context of how the Anglos imbued currency overall, and they were basically saying that it was an illegal currency. It was not something that was recognized from, I guess, the English standpoint, but over time obviously became that key reserve currency for the globe. So Alex was I think it was Alex was making the point that, in fact, it takes time. You know, it takes a lot of time for certain currencies or technologies to be validated. And we're really in that nascent period of time now where we're in that state of flux, where we're trying to work out what exactly this technology can do, how it can be utilized, what kind of utilities will enter the space, how currencies will emerge. It's still a really, really innovative period of time. And rife with innovation, not just controversy, not just shills and pump and dumps. And I think that's where the conversation's really been missed by Nouriel, is he doesn't understand the fundamentals of the technology. I really do believe that. I think he's overlooked that and is too focused on currency itself as an economist.
You know, you're probably right about that. I mean, what we have is with crypto is we have, not only do we have a currency, but we have a brand new technology attached to it. I don't think we've ever seen that with anything else, like with the tulips, with gold, with diamonds, with shells, with anything else. We've always just had these tangible items. And I think one of the problems with cryptocurrency and with Bitcoin is it's not tangible. It's not something you can actually touch in your hand. And I think that's something that kind of, you know, it's not, I think for people that don't have an open mind, I think it can get kind of, it scares them, or it makes them nervous, or they think are so quick to call it a scam. And I just think that, and I also think the fact that, like, I was in a club at school, I think it was an entrepreneurship club, and this woman was there and we were talking about crypto, because I was like, you know, this is the industry I'm in, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, well, who backs it? And I was like, I do. And she's like, what are you talking about? You do? I said, well, I own some. I said, essentially it's backed by the people, like people that own it. We're the ones that, you know, essentially we're backing it. It's literally currency for the people, by the people. And I don't think that these traditional economics and these finance people, I don't think they understand that. And I'm very tired, so excuse my speaking.
You got an awesome point. Like, for instance, in these or any other dollar notes, these are Venezuelan bolivars. So these are you having full faith and credit in your government. And so back in the day, this was probably like a year's salary. Nowadays, this won't even buy you a cup of coffee. That's because full faith and credit, when you lose full faith and credit in your government, this stuff goes as well. So, and I think that's something that people are starting to see, that like you can't have full faith and credit in governments anymore. The second point was about crypto not being tangible. All right. So funny story. I was in an Apple store not too long ago, and I was asking them, you know, when they're going to start taking Bitcoin, and they said, well, it's, you know, what is that? It's not tangible. We were talking about that for a while, but then they were like, you know, you're never going to get people to convert over to a new money system. That's not going to happen.
Oh, well.
And so moments later, she's like, oh yeah, and if you want, you can pay for that with Apple Pay. And I was like, yeah, you see, you guys just converted everybody to another payment system. It's as simple as that to get people to use Bitcoin. One day it'll be.
You know, talking about that, when I was at HoshiCon, we watched Andreas Antonopoulos speak, and one thing that he was saying in Greece, he remembers his dad. I forgot what currency they converted. They converted a currency from a specific currency to the euro, and he said it took 6 months for everybody to like completely make the switch over and to do all the calculation and stuff behind it to whatever. And he said it took 6 months, and that was it. It was a really, really awesome talk, and it was really cool. But that kind of resonated with me, is that it, like, as humans, we've evolved forever. That's all we do. We evolve, like the theory of evolution, all that fun stuff, which I won't get into, but we evolve. We have to adapt, persevere, and overcome. And we've had new currencies, and we've had new things that have happened. And the United States is a very new country. Like, all these other countries have been taken over and overthrown multiple times. Like, we're super new. And I just think, I don't know, I think our society is we're just so used, and we're kind of sheltered, and we don't know, you know, we've never had that happen to where we've been overthrown. And I think that think that crypto is the thing to do that. I think we're in the middle of a financial revolution, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, the day of reckoning is nigh, especially not like shill nigh, but like nigh, like NIGH.
Yeah, so true. And the thing is,
it means near for anybody who doesn't know that, because the U.S. is just completely anti-cryptocurrency and anti-development in this stuff. Even though they were doing a lot of development in like Silicon Valley, but they're completely against most cryptocurrencies. So I think we're being left behind by years.
And it's funny too, because as an Aussie, we are also a very young country comparatively, but I think that sets us apart in terms of the potential for us as a young populace, or the young population certainly are gravitating more towards these kinds of means of technology and reinvigorating, I guess, the status quo, because we do want to see change, I think, universally. And those in the developed world, we want to see alternatives to those centralized models. And I think what really entices most people to, or what pulls people to cryptocurrency and the larger blockchain discussion, is its potential more than anything. And so when we talk about, what the current things are doing, I think, again, harping back to Nuriel, he loses the argument there, because it's not just about what things are currently doing, it's what can be done. It's being willing to ride the wave of time that is required to build out this very, very long-term approach to revolutionizing a new way of addressing some of the injustices that we see. Because, as you guys know, is that banks are just one example of that monopoly that so few hold the power with. They wield the power, they wield the money, they dictate world economies, and that needs to change. Not from just an ideal standpoint, but from a justice standpoint. And that's why I think so many people really want to jump on board. It's not because they want to make $1 million themselves, they want to capitalize, but they actually want to contribute to a fairer system.
I agree. At least where I am, like, I'm in California, there's like no middle class anymore. Like when I had my regular job, and when we were both working, we made decent money, and it was like we weren't living paycheck to paycheck, but it felt like we couldn't get ahead. Like, we wanted to buy a house, and it felt like, you need so much money to buy a house, and the interest rates, and you need this huge down payment. So it started, and it was all like all these things, all these rules that you have to have, those are all dictated by banks and dictated by mortgage loan officers and all that type of stuff. It's like give me a freaking break. Like, we need to give the power back to the people. Like, it's just something has to change. I think a lot of people are fed up with the student loans and with all these things, because I feel like at the end of the day, like, you work really hard, and a lot of people, even though they're making decent money, they're living paycheck to paycheck, and it's just that's no way to live. If I ever become a millionaire, I would love that. That'd be awesome. But at the end of the day, I just want to be able to live comfortably and not have to pay super high rates and, all these things. It's absolutely, it's crazy. Like, things seem so complicated.
Exactly. And what do you guys think in that context too? What do you think, Wendy, about the whole argument that almost everyone seems to agree with, that there is a lot of ICO problems, in the sense that there is a lot of inherent manipulation, there's a lot of ultra-capitalistic activity happening inside it that is really anti the spirit of what we're all standing for, which is the decentralized economies, that's access to more rather than less?
So my whole thing with the ICOs is I support all these different coin companies because I'm for small businesses. I view them as small businesses. I view them as people that want to make things better. But another thing I don't agree with is I think that we need to have a lot more transparency in our space. Like, these big companies, they're making money and they're doing well, and that's awesome. If you have a really good idea, you should be able to capitalize on it. But at the end of the day, you do need to be transparent, and you do need to be held accountable. I know a lot of people are not for laws and regulations, but at the same time, the SEC in the United States is there to make people show financial statements, to show how much they're paying and how much they've earned, and how, their assets and their liabilities and all that stuff. I think that cryptocurrency companies, especially ICOs, I don't care which country you're in, I feel like us as a community, we should hold them to the standards, similar standards that the SEC would. And we should say, you know, as a leap, or I can't think of the right word.
I know what you mean.
But you should provide this information. You should be transparent. You should be upfront. And I think as a community, we shouldn't support ICOs or projects or coin companies that aren't doing that. I mean, it's not forcing them to do something, but it's like, if you're supposed to be for the people, and crypto is a very close, tight-knit community. If you're not doing anything shady, you should come forth, and you should,
exactly, because the ICO, I totally agree, because I'm getting fed up with those companies that aren't really there for the long-term play of what they're trying to do. You know, we've seen this time and time again, where there's bullshit in the space and they're alleging to be something. They write a white paper, then they either piss off and, go to Ibiza or whatever, or they just, okay, well, I won't use Ibiza.
I want to go there, so if any of your ICO companies are doing that, make sure you invite me.
Well, you know what I mean. Is maybe I won't use the fun parts of the world as an analogy, but they go somewhere to sort of celebrate their own wealth. And whether they're a majority or a minority, one thing that was raised by Nuriel, and I did want to discuss this with you guys, is that he said that right now the majority actually his numbers are something to the effect of 90% of the ICOs, or 91% are valueless. They don't have any sort of real credibility in the space.
So he's gone through every single ICO.
Right.
Is it what?
Right. Well, allegedly, but let's just say that we make the broader statement and say
I've heard that 73% of statistics are made up.
Yeah. Well, let's just say
this is the thing. I'm actually
this is a joke, because that's a statistic. I just made it up.
Hey, let me tell you something. I'm actually taking a business analytics class, which is like a more advanced statistics class or whatever. But basically, you are able to manipulate different sets of data and come up with information that suits your theory or your bias. And I don't buy it. It's like, I just don't buy it. Math is
say something about the ICOs.
Yes.
So one thing, yes, there's a whole bunch of unfair practices going on with ICOs. For instance, pre-sales, stuff like that, where people get 100, 200x just for participating in that, where most people can't even gain entry into that. So it's basically like the rich getting richer.
Exactly.
So that's a very unfair practice. Things that I do like, for instance, when Neon Exchange had their ICO, and it was basically lottery and very small amounts. You couldn't get more even if you wanted to. So that's one way to fix that. Another thing that I think is going on is, rats. I don't know.
But I know what you mean, because NOS is doing something similar, like that more egalitarian approach. But the thing is that I think that a lot of people in that mainstream argument don't acknowledge the kind of injustices that have always existed in business anyway. Because
that stuff, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that stuff happens in like regular businesses too. There's so much shady shit that goes on.
Yeah.
The old company I used to work at, it was a nonprofit for HIV/AIDS. But let me tell you, we didn't get raises the first I was there, the whole company, 10 years. And when I transitioned over into healthcare, we didn't get raises. I didn't get a raise for 5 years. Like, they gave us a little cost of living increase, which was like 10 cents an hour, something ridiculous. But the people that were like super, super high positions, they would fly everywhere. They would have fancy dinners. They would do all these things and just expense. Like,
right.
There's stuff like that goes on in regular companies that happens that's being overlooked. Like, and
I totally agree.
I mean, I'm sorry.
I totally agree. I think this conversation is important because we're not precluded in crypto from the corruption. And that's the thing I want to really address, is that, there's some shady shit going on, but we don't stand for that. What we stand for is really trying to build out a whole new frame of business, a new frame of really engaging in new forms of currency, goods and services being traded. We literally stand for that, and a way for people of our age and new generations to come to capitalize on fairer systems, because the current system is just shit. It really just benefits too few, and the masses endure, I guess, the outcome, which is a stronghold from the top down.
Yeah. So Wendy, piggybacking off of that, Brad, but Wendy, you were mentioning earlier how the middle class is getting cut out. So basically, the rich are just getting abundantly richer. They're getting so rich, it's, tough to fathom.
Disgusting.
But one of the things that I love about cryptocurrencies, that I love about blockchain, especially now that we're having this shakedown in price and a lot of the bad projects are going away, is that there are really good projects that are coming out. Like, for instance, one that I just spoke with the other day, they're having basically a plug-and-play solution for any type of social media app. So basically, any social media app can be monetized just like that using the blockchain. So basically, you go to sleep today, tomorrow when you log into Instagram or whatever, you're starting to earn some type of currency just because of the we're getting, that type of stuff. So then all of a sudden, the money doesn't go to these big people like Facebook and Instagram. It goes to the people who actually use it, the people who generate the stuff on there.
That's awesome. Yeah, you are seeing, okay, so I do sponsored ICO reviews and sponsored ICO interviews because a girl's got to make a living. I want to be a stay-at-home mom and not have to do a 9 to 5. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But you are seeing, like when I do these project reviews, I'm actually seeing valid use cases. Like they may not be the best use cases, but they actually have them and they apply to real life people, and they don't just talk about the world with the word, they don't use the words decentralized or disruptive or this technology or blah, blah, blah. They're actually, if they end up doing what they say they're going to do, like to me, they sound like legit startups. If they do what they're going to say they're going to do, they're going to appeal to the masses. And that's what I'm excited about. And that's what I'm bullish about, is because once and I say this all the time, once you have a system or a platform or something that mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, your brothers, sisters, you can use it and you don't know you're using the blockchain, it's seamless. That's when that's awesome. And that's when mass adoption is going to occur. That's when people are going to start getting excited about crypto, is when that happens.
I 100% agree. And only recently I was talking with a gaming platform, and something it was a bit of a light bulb moment in that situation, because for the first time it moved away from the conversation of blockchain. And that sounds funny, but the reason why it was exciting is because up until that time, I'd spoken so much about different consensus mechanisms, or I talked about protocols and platforms, but suddenly I realized having this conversation was that for things to really lead into mass adoption, you have to have something beyond blockchain, just like what you're talking about, Wendy. And it has to be something where people don't just have this ideal. And what I mean by that is, they don't just have that ideal that we have of wanting to reframe things for social justice.
Because that will come.
It will come. It will come. It'll become more of an indirect outcome. But the direct one will be more, okay, what does it do for me? And these new use cases actually do something for the user that is more beneficial than the previous models. Like literally down to monetary gain, literally down to better access, more autonomy, more data control. All of those things can be afforded by distributed ledger technology, or blockchain is one of them, that has never been able to be done before, been done. And so in that context, when you look at things like gaming, it's just an example industry or a use case, but holy shit, it's a good one, because if you're into that kind of industry as a user, for the first time ever, you're not giving your digital assets, your own self-created data, your own, gaming assets, you're not giving them to that company.
Right.
You're actually in control. And I really think that's going to change everything.
Another thing too is like, okay, let's go back and let's talk about the internet. When the internet first came around, that was really cool, it was really exciting. But there was different websites that started coming out to improve existing platform or existing stuff. So for example,
talking about porn, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about porn because
the main use case.
because VHS was just not it was not acceptable quality. It was just not high definition.
And you had to go into the video store, and it was so dang embarrassing.
Yes. Okay. But
the admissions of Crypto Love.
So
I was too young then. I was a kid.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You're still a kid.
I'm sure. Well, you used to have the Playboy magazines and whatnot too. So okay, but let's get back to.
Oh, you were
so let's talk about a brick and mortar store. You used to have a brick and mortar store that you would have to physically go into and buy something. Well, when the internet came, there was a use case that people wanted to use the internet to purchase goods. So there became Amazon and eBay and whatnot. So essentially the internet, what it did was it revolutionized the way we went shopping. So why can't blockchain technology revolutionize the way we go shopping again and make something better and make purchases trackable, or make, make with supply chain management or different things. So it's all about evolving into something that's better.
Yeah, and there's always resistance from those entities, especially centralized ones, that are going to be really vocal about that. It's led by people like Muriel. And again, trying to be that objective speaker, how can you not be subjective, though, in this context? Because they have that agenda. So we must fight back with a more educated position, because at the end of the day, here you have people who are proponents of maintaining status quo, when in fact, technology by itself, by definition, is something that really is meant to improve our life, our social outcomes, our standards of living by enhancing it. And if in fact that's what DLT is going to do, then let that be, let it flow, let it evolve. But right now, that many of these mainstream players are wanting to stifle that because of the costs inherent in this innovation for them and their own enterprise. So, when you hear someone like Muriel say things like, Ethereum is a scam, when you hear him say things like, this is the biggest bubble you've ever seen. Well, I've also heard quotes being said that sometimes you must have bubbles for innovation to flourish. And I think this is one of those moments in history where we need to see the outcome of this bubble. And we need to be present right now in this space and active in it to really not just have a voice, but to contribute to the development, to contribute to the tech, because it's the tech that will drive it. It's not just, I guess, the economic rationale of being an investor, because that's the first part of it, is contributing economically. But the real test will come in the utility. What do these things do to really transform? And I think he's going to eat his own words, because he's actually recently made a bet, and he said that there'll be another further 90% loss incurred in the overall ecosystem. That's what Muriel's, claimed in the next year. And
I don't think so.
And even whether or not he's right, though, I think he misses the point of that long-term vision. I really do, because if you talk to, and you guys have, but if you go around the world and you go to every major academic institution, especially the ones in the Western world, even in the East, actually. So if you go to Tsinghua, you go to Harvard, you go to Cambridge, you go to Cornell, you go anywhere, blockchain is actually something that's taken really seriously, and some of the best speakers in the world are in those institutions. So for him to go and speak against it is to actually indirectly and directly discredit brilliant minds all around the world. So it makes absolutely no sense that he can make such outlandish and broad sweeping claims that aren't backed with academic proof. It's just one academic speaking with a really loud mouth.
Well, I mean, you see that I'm a college student. I've been like a lifelong learner for forever, but you see that in different classrooms and different subjects. Is you have one person that, of course they have their master's, which is really awesome, or their doctorate, which is awesome, and they're technically an expert, but you get these people with these egos that think that they are better than God or better than whatever, and they're not willing to listen to other people's perspectives and, just hear another side, just because they feel like they have this education and whatnot. And that's what this dude seems like, is he seems that he is on such a high horse. He is not willing to be open-minded to other things that are going on. And at the end of the day, you don't have to agree with somebody, but you should at least hear them out. If they're not, terrorizing you or attacking you, at least hear them out. And I think because he's not doing that, I think that, it's going to discredit him greatly. But also too, like what we were talking about in the beginning, I don't think he really cares. I just think he's being a jerk, and he's just doing it for publicity. And look how much publicity he's getting.
That's true.
We're all talking about it.
That is true. I mean, certainly winning in that context. But I think, if we can trump, his argument, I think that's also going to give us real power. And
Was that a presidential reference?
Was it? Yeah.
No, definitely not. I'm an Aussie, so bloody hell. But with respect to his argument, I think the most important thing is that we do speak out with our own argument, not with the objective to counter his, but to speak out intellectually, because the blockchain community is not just or the crypto community are not just people wanting to capitalize for their own agenda and for themselves. As you said, Wendy, we are a team. We are a group of people who want to do something for the greater good. And that's what we're standing up for when we speak against this guy, because his agenda is his own. And when he speaks about things and he says things like Bitcoin is going to disappear, that was his own quote. That's a really big thing. And it's also anomalous in his own statement, because later, if you listen to his argument, he says, it may not disappear, it'll be around, but it won't be relevant. So he doesn't really sometimes have a clear view, even in his own discussions and his own rebuttal for different things are presented. But even down to that trilemma issue, when we talk about scalability, we talk about decentralization, we talk about security. He often says things like Bitcoin as a major reference point will never achieve this. But what he's missing is that there are so many solutions coming forth. We know about Lightning as just one example for Bitcoin, but beyond that, the scope of research being done and that being actualized by not just white papers, by the way, but also by true and tested scalable measures. All of that's happening right now. And I think he's truly missing the point of all the evidence, because everything's leading towards utility. And I don't give a shit whether, he says to me, oh, but you can't prove it. I can see from empirical evidence, and so can so many around the world, if you do enough of the research, that we're in that transition right now.
Just look at the people we have coming into cryptocurrency. We have the smartest people in the world, like people who are so smart, computer programmers that are so smart that they're dropping out of Stanford, which has the best computer science program, because they're so smart. They're bored of the curriculum there.
Yep.
They go directly into cryptocurrencies. All right. We have people in finance and Wall Street who are leaving vice president positions at some of the major banks to get into cryptocurrencies. We have all these different people getting into it because they see the light. I think, what he's doing, he's probably the largest crypto troll out there. He's just doing it to be an anti-person. He's being the devil's advocate. He's doing a very good job of it, and he's getting a lot of attention doing it.
Well, essentially, maybe this is a good thing, because we have this well-known famous person, which I say very lightly, but we have this person that's in the spotlight that's probably been in Forbes or been in all these mainstream media things. So what he's going to do, he might badmouth something, but all those little anarchists and all these little people that are against the system, they may be like, hey, screw this guy, what's crypto? And they might want to come to our community or come see what's going on. Come to my meetup, because it's awesome and fun if you're in LA. But at the end of the day, it might be good for us, because the more and more people that are talking about it, even if it's bad, it might be enticing and intriguing to some people to figure it out.
Yeah, and the fact that some of the arguments he makes, for example, from a technological standpoint, he says things like Ethereum smart contracts are too buggy. He talks about that there's a percentage.
But he's an economist. How does he know about the tech?
Right, exactly. So, but like you said though, Wendy, it's good that he's talking about the fact that smart contracts exist, because in that respect, once again, every single technology is too something. It's too buggy or it's too whatever.
Nothing's perfect.
Yeah.
Life is not perfect.
Yeah, but the cool thing is that smart contracts do exist, and they have already started the conversation of change with regard to dApps existing, dApps having use cases. I mean, he argues that a lot of the dApps don't right now, but that doesn't mean that they can't and won't, and it doesn't mean like in this process of shifting across the crypto chasm that we won't see really exciting outcomes. Because right now, I mean, I don't like to use the term top projects, and I really try and avoid that conversation, but we are certainly seeing really high quality projects come forth in trying to present arguments for the best possibility, the best potential for applicability. So that's always going to continue, just like any race for businesses vying for attention. That happened even with Google. It happens with Facebook. I mean, it's not always the best tech even that wins. It's the best overall holistic strategy for that company. And it's exciting to be watching that and watching all these different companies emerge as startups, because that's what they are. They aren't altcoins.
They're startups.
Yeah, they're not altcoins versus BTC. They're actually businesses with legit people. And this guy misses the mark, I think, in that respect, because that's what we're busy trying to, advocate for, is change in the frame of letting these people have a voice when they otherwise would never have. But
also, too, competition is essential for economics. If you do not have competition, you don't have economics, because then you just have a monopoly. You have one entity, and that's not even legal. So
exactly. And that's kind of ironic, because China led this with respect to just the sheer amount of startups that came forth. Yes, it's absolutely true that there were many different crap coins that came forth that they were baseless for sure. And I'm not sort of going to focus solely on China, but if you do enough of the ICO research, you'll see that there was an influx coming forth from that particular part of the world at one particular period of time. But right now, what is exciting is, once again, is that the academics of it are taking over. the blockchain is taking over. The distributed ledger tech is taking over, and it's leading the conversation as the driver for the innovation rather than just the theory. And so, pragmatism and utility is the conversation of the day. And as I said, like Muriel just doesn't seem to understand. He's using baseless stats, or even if they are filled with truth, they aren't considering the potential of this as a long-term play. And right. I think that many of the people, as you guys have been saying, is many people already have argued by not arguing. It's the silence of the intellectuals. It's the silence of the ones busy doing that I think really matters the most, because they really don't give a shit about this guy. What they think about is, okay, what can I do today to better improve my tech with my team? And it seems to always be that the very top tier projects genuinely don't even engage that much with us as speakers in this space, because they're literally busy building.
I agree.
So it's a cool time to be in, definitely.
We're watching things transform into, even let's say Bitcoin breaks, or let's say crypto goes away, and this guy ends up being correct. At least we can say we were here and we witnessed it and we were a part of it, because it is going to go down in history.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
and he said, sorry, you go.
I would love to see like not a debate between Noriel and Andreas. I think that would be interesting.
Yeah, me too. That would be awesome. Or even, I'd like to see one with Vitalik, to be fair, because his main criticisms are actually particularly against Ethereum. So I would like to see that happen. Because
and then Kevin Pham moderating.
I know they're against Ethereum, but if we're going down the smart contract line, I would think that Hoskinson would do a better debate.
That would be interesting. Yeah. And that man can talk, so that would be really good to see. Yeah. But what's funny is that, if we fit the bill of what he perceives us to be, he argues that we are, to use his quote, he calls us trolls, shills, scammers, crypto zealots, calls us lunatics, and he says that crypto is the mother of all scams. But again,
banking industry, hello.
He calls us the hodler losers, and just from those statements alone, he removes all credibility from his academic standpoint, because that is the most unacademic thing a person could say. As an academic myself, I'm not going to go and attack the other argument I'm going to attack the argument. I'm not going to attack the person. So again, that kind of emotion is really precluding him from the light of what this technology can do. And when he starts to think a little bit more open-minded about it, I think he'll start to see, and this is the cool thing, he'll start to see IoT and AI relevant in blockchain. And this is the thing. He said over and over that AI, or artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things all has validity, all has a place. But the thing is that in reality, whether or not it's blockchain or not, it's going to happen. It's going to be relevant. And so he's missing the mark once again, because blockchain startups right now are already heavily doing IoT and AI. And yet he has no clue of that. I think that's remarkable, that already there are major innovations happening, because what he's saying is that AI and IoT are relevant economically, and they're going to have a position in the future of world economics with regard to tech. But he doesn't understand that is literally part of DLT too. And so again, he's missing the mark of the validity and the economic rationalism, the truth behind what this kind of stuff can do for economies around the world. So, he argues that all the value points are lost because people are no longer adopting it. But that's only for a period of time right now, because we have a utility gap in this chasm, this crypto chasm we're looking at right now.
We're in a bear market too. And he should know about market cycles, because market cycles is talked about in economics. We're in a bear market, and it's part of we needed a healthy correction. This might be a little bit more than healthy, but at the end of the day, there's no market that is parabolic and stays up. It goes, we have our ups and downs and we have our crashes. Like it's part of the industry. It's part of everything. And the projects that stay around and that continue to work on their scalability are the ones that we will see, because Bitcoin is not going anywhere. It's not. So
and it's funny because he says those things. He says that literally, he says this, he goes that it's not scalable, it's not secure, and it's not reliable. Well, yes, it is. And different projects are one of those things more so than the other, for sure. But the reality is that who the frig cares really in the end of the day, because we're still in that process, of building upon other technology that was addressing one aspect. So that trilemma we're still working through. So again, I'm bullish on the technology. I'm invested in people rather than one specific technology, because collectively the solutions will come. That's just what's always happened in history as these innovations have come forth.
Or there'll be something else that will come up that'll be better than blockchain technology.
Exactly.
Right now, until that happens, I don't see what's going to be better. Right.
I agree.
As of today, I don't.
And the whole argument of fintech, he says fintech, he's bullish on fintech, he's not bullish on crypto. That's a joke, because fintech is part and inherent with blockchain. Like, you cannot separate the two. So he probably needs to go and do a bit more reading on what fintech actually is and how that conversation is relevant. Because, just because it's monetizable or that it's got this token system doesn't mean it's not relevant.
Right. Yeah. You should debate him, Brad.
Trust me, there's smarter people out there. But, at the end of the day, I think that there's some really smart people out there that are presenting really good arguments. And Alex, as CryptoLove's mentioned, Alex really did a good one to start the conversation. What I liked was that it was emotionally charged. There's nothing wrong with that. But later on, it would be cool to see some really objective, moderated speakers who challenge them both to look deeper into the other argument. Because at the end of the day, I was interested in some of the things that Muriel said with regard to perhaps the transparency issue, like we've talked about. Not everything he says is all bullshit, but most of it seems to be an issue, and most of it, to me personally, is problematic, and it really made me want to dive deeper. But, things like making a statement about volatility being an argument for why we should dismiss crypto, it's ridiculous. Because volatility is, again, an imperative. You have to have volatility, especially in the beginning, for things to, work themselves out. We know this now with
things smooth themselves out. Things work out. I can think of so many examples right now, but I'm just no. I mean, there's volatility in all different. Like when you have a brand new startup. You think things are going to be smooth. Like when you're an entrepreneur and you start a business, you think you're just going to be smooth sailing and it's just going to be a straight line. No, there's all these crazy up and downs. It happens in nature. It happens everywhere. It happens when babies are born. It happens when new things happen. There's volatility. There's things that occur. Like
exactly. And even safety as well too, Wendy. Like he argues that the problem inherent with Bitcoin and the altcoins is that they don't have good security measures, or they're not safe, to use his words. But again, let's go back to the conversation of banks. I mean, what a load of bullshit. Because safe for whom? Again, it always comes back to that subjective argument of, okay, sure, my money might be in a bank, but who's it truly safe with, and who's it really benefiting? As we've talked about, those challenges in trying to buy a house are real for everyone around the world who's that middle income earner. We want to change that so it's easier. And when he talks about the problems of, being able to say that, theft is an issue. People around the world are currently losing their Bitcoin and their altcoins to theft.
There's theft that's happening. People are stealing people's credit cards and their social security. Like my husband's ATM, his work ATM, was just somebody used it we're in California, and somebody used it in like Alaska or something like that yesterday at night at in Sacramento at like 10 a.m. And it's like, so stuff like that happens. Like at least we have, there's a lot of things that need to be worked on with security and private keys and, leaving your cryptocurrencies to like inheritance to your family members. There's things that need to happen, but at the end of the day, it's going to work itself out. We're still a very new industry. Like give us time. And I think give us a break.
Blockchain break.
Bitcoin being at the forefront, being an open, permissionless network for 9 years has set it up as such a robust system because it's been open and available. It's been sitting there saying, hey, my network's here. There is a load of money on me. Go ahead, send your works. And in 9 years, no one's been able to hack it. So
and you know what?
Security, that's what I like, as opposed to some, permission network that a bank has their money on that you got to trust. And then you have like the Equifax hack, the Facebook hack, all of these closed permission networks.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because, I have a bit of a different position on that, probably because, I can see the value of BTC absolutely long-term, 100%, never going to discredit that. But I can also see the value of the permissioned as well. So for me, I'm really excited about some of those, the melding, you know, some of the ways in which innovative thinkers try to find ways for public blockchains, permissionless blockchains to coexist with the permissioned marketplace, because that's where the real value, I think, is going to come forth. And the reason why is because, and this is just my own view, but I don't think that all enterprise are going to easily trust an open source public permissionless system. I really do. I think I take the more realist position on that. But at the same time, I'm not a proponent of someone simply maintaining their own database system. I mean, it's not going to change anything. So when we see these hybridized systems, I get really excited about that because they're utilizing the public blockchain. And it also doesn't discount the value of BTC or any permissionless structure, especially the most probabilistic and the most provable ones, which is obviously based on the Nakamoto protocol, because they're trying to do things that are simple and trying to do things that maintain that SOV. And they're always going to synergize. They're always going to gel and jive with business, provided that, you know, things move in the direction that they are. But I do get excited about when I see businesses trying to innovate, trying to be really creative about how they can take part in this ecosystem and this wave of change, rather than sit back and be a JP Morgan and just complain and complain and complain and complain, you know, as everyone's literally trying to do something cool. So, yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that Google and Amazon, they're doing blockchain, they're doing research. These central systems are not sitting back and just letting things roll, you know, they're not. And this guy makes it sound like as if that they're the ultimate solution. Even banks themselves, this is the craziest thing.
Well, there's some traditional finance companies like Circle, they freaking bought, or I can't remember the headline is because I'm like super tired, but there's big financial companies that are buying and that are investing in blockchain technology, and that we have the Bitcoin futures. We have different things. So for someone like him to say that it's not, you know, that there's going to be a barrier and that it's not going to, you know, take over. Like you said, it's getting people's interest. Like I know somebody in Newport Beach, he's a cryptocurrency broker. And what he does is he sets up your 401k and whatnot with different cryptocurrencies. And so we are seeing businesses like that that are, you know, integrating crypto into the, you know, traditional ecosystem. So I think that like we said, it's going to take time, but it's going to happen. It's coming.
And the thing is as well, guys, governments are talking about it too. You know, like literally in my country, the government's having serious conversations about blockchain. You know, I think most countries around the world are already aware of it. So, you know, for this guy to suggest that it's, you know, going to go away, it's not going to go away.
Yeah. And also, I mean, we have to, so like a lot of people are focused on the price right now, being like, Bitcoin's at $6,000. It just doesn't have adoption. What's happening? All of the big players are doing OTC deals. We don't see that in market price.
Right.
I was just talking with a few big miners the other day, and they have all of their Bitcoin sold already for the next 6 months. Like, this stuff is sold, and we don't see that affecting the price at all. So that's something that a lot of people don't realize, because we're just looking at where the price is now, but that doesn't account for what's going on right now. All these big players, I don't know if I would bet, but I would, if he was smart, Nouriel Roubini would be buying up Bitcoin while he's shit talking it.
And the other thing too is, and I think we're all proponents of this from what Wendy said too, is that we do want to see a space that's conducive of a more regulated design, meaning that we don't want governments to centrally control things. That's definitely not what we stand for. But we do want to see measures in place that literally legitimize what we're doing, you know, from the top down, because we're a grassroots movement where the people by the people for the people, that kind of thing. But at the same time, we don't want to be constantly embattled or at war with a higher power. We want that higher power to acknowledge, to legitimize, to write.
Yes, acknowledging.
Yeah, and to literally write down in law the validity of this, so that we can see an injection of liquidity. We can see institutions take this seriously. I really think that's part of that next big wave of acceptance of global and mass adoption, is for a greater degree of legitimacy from the top down. I think that the people like Nouriel are actually stifling this from happening, and that needs to be broken down.
As soon as they start accepting it as taxes, then game over.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because that's it.
Yeah.
Every currency that's stood the test of time has been accepted as taxes. I know in the US you can pay, in some states you can pay the state taxes with Bitcoin.
Nice.
But as soon as it's accepted as taxes, then that's it.
And don't forget too, from a legal standpoint, it's definitely complex, and that's why it takes so long, because we not only have the currency definitions, as we know from BTC, but we also have the utility definitions and the securities with STOs. The wave of STOs coming, I don't think people even understand the gravity of that, but it's coming. So when we see the securitization of systems, when we see the utility-based economies building, when we see trade and goods and services interacting with BTC, everything is literally going to change. But right now, again, we're still in that chasm, that crypto chasm of transition. And that is essential for us to really use that time to better understand, to educate, to prepare, kind of like store, some want to hodl, whatever it is. This is not financial advice, but don't forget, Amazon was $8 once. And that wasn't that long ago. It's the same sort of scenario we're seeing again, is that the value is in the research. The value is in understanding the underpinnings of the whole ecosystem, because that's when we get to see the next 10 years before it happens, I think.
I agree.
But, oh my God, we can go so deep, swim back up to the surface. It's been interesting, definitely talking to you guys about this, because I think, as influencers as well, I think it's often misunderstood, perhaps, just how much research goes into having the privilege of speaking.
It's hard. It's hard work.
Yeah, and it's been really a great honor to speak with both of you, because we get to talk about the things that really matters to us. It's not just us getting on board because we want to talk about the next big coin. It's really about trying to see the value before it perhaps hits, or do the research for the people so that you can access it as early as possible. I remember when I would do research for a startup, as I like to call them, I'd always try to be as early as I could, so that it would allow people to make the phone call if they wanted to, or access that particular startup, to benefit themselves. But as CryptoLove's saying, sometimes the whole metric design is the problem, because we want to move away from that hierarchical design whereby the early entrant capitalizes, and then the majority of people don't. And that's why I'd like to see more of that transparency and more of those open, right from the outset, those really open NEX-like or NOS-like systems, so that everyone can take part, and there isn't this like tiered system of access that benefits me but not you.
And then also tiered ICOs. So like when people do IPOs in traditional markets, they have their phases. They have their A rounds, their different seed rounds, that type of stuff. So have something like that with ICOs, since with ICOs, we should technically be able to see where the money's going, because it is on the blockchain. Instead of raising $30 million, who needs $30 million up front? That just sounds like party in Ibiza. Make sure you invite me. But
I'm sure it'll be your party.
But having
one in the corner.
Yeah, but having rounds, maybe the first round $1 million, and then let's have some stuff done with that $1 million, and then see, where you can go from there.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see more of that, where there's demand from the people to have clear business proposals and business statements, because as we've known in the past, and we've talked about this before, is that there's been this culture of really high raises with no evidence or no plan. But that was also part of what was one of the biggest bull runs in history in 2017. So it kind of makes sense for the time it was. Everyone was still trying to work out what the hell was everything meant and what was a large raise. We really didn't know how big it could go. But now we do.
At the same time too, even when I'm reviewing different ICOs, they have a little circle graph that says, 20% marketing, 10% legal fees, this and that. It's be specific.
Exactly.
Don't instead of having an about me and all this other crap that they have on their website, have a section that says finances or I'm so tired, I can't think right now. But
exactly.
Have a page that has all this shit broken down, because you have a circle graph that's this big. Get out of here with that circle graph.
Most of them don't even know what they're. I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them don't even know what they're doing. They paid someone to write their own white paper.
It's true.
They paid someone to create their tokenomics. They paid someone to create those graphs. They have no idea. And that's the craziest thing, is that we've been giving them this much money to do that, and they have.
And you know what's really cool now, because we've been talking about this crypto chasm, or I have anyway, way too much. I'm sorry I'm talking so much. But the thing I like about it is that it's getting rid of all those shit coins. And there are shit coins for sure. And
don't talk about my shit coins like that.
But, you know, as we move into, I guess, the next space, and there will be other runs that come. We'll see mini bull runs and we'll see bull runs in the future for sure. But as we see that come forth, what is exciting is that we'll see things happen that become where the white paper becomes less imperative. Because when we first started or doing all this research, all of us, we only had things like a white paper that was complex in itself. We had sometimes,
don't even get me started.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's no real testability factor. There's no way to know for sure that can be done. But now, because of the demands, what's exciting is that we're seeing sometimes not even a white paper exists for some companies, but they're actually showing proof immediately. They're showing proof of revenue, or they're showing proof of functionality. It doesn't always have to be that white paper underpinning. Some have even refused to do a white paper. And initially I was like, what the hell? You know, this has got to be a bunch of bullshit. But they're proving.
I think they still should do white papers, but they need to do a better job with white papers are important. White papers are important. And so is having a product in beta, at least minimum. Like get something going, get something that you can, that's tangible, that, you know, because if you don't have these things in place, then you need to, you know, get a team together and start working on something.
Right. And having that MVP and having those alphas and betas is everything. But here's the thing too, is that how often do you see a white paper evolve? Literally. Like I mean, some do, but the majority don't. They have this Bible that is their white paper. And then we rely on that as a means of initially looking at that as a utility-based investment, and then we'll move on. But what I do like is that this is happening less and less, where now there's an expectation of two things. This is really cool. One is that their tech will evolve and that the investor will demand that, like we're talking, but also that the investors themselves, those strategic investors, they now have to be more involved in the service offerings in the context of giving capital. So in 2017, it was just, here's my cash, take it, and I'll expect a lot more back. But now these projects are saying, no, get stuffed. If you can't give me more than just your money, piss off. Because it's just no longer good enough for these investors, these VC capital investors, to just give them money and expect 10x. It's not going to happen anymore. And I love that, because it's injecting more of that tech value into the ecosystem. And it also means that when we take part, we're able to take part in things that are being better backed by research. So as we move into the next phase, we're not going to see so many shit coins. We're going to see real tech, you know, and fintech based stuff as well. So it's a cool time, I reckon.
Totally. The future, I mean, I fantasize all the time, sometimes about crypto too. But anyways, I can't, you know, I think about this all the time. I'm like, man, in 10 years, looking back, like, could you guys even imagine what that's going to be like? Because we're going to be like, wow, I wish I would have bought like 50 times what I bought.
I already feel like that. And that's how old I feel. I feel like a year ago when I think of things like, you know, just Ethereum alone, for example, you know, and it doesn't matter about whether or not one project doesn't do well in the long term. What is, like you said, how cool is it that we're in this space and we're having the conversation and we're having the audacity? Because it takes guts to be in crypto. It does, because it takes that confidence to step over the mainstream line in all of the sort of the manipulations that we're fed from the beginning. You know, when we're born, we're told the world is a certain way, and it's the antithesis of everything that is crypto. So as we break those barriers, those mental ones, and we take part in the ecosystem, we're active. I think that's the best part, is the process, not necessarily those outcomes of wealth. But the real wealth is these conversations we're having. Yeah, and having these conversations now. I mean, I feel like that's the biggest honor. And in 10 years' time, being part of that crypto conversation, how cool is that? You know, to look back and think, wow, we were part of the beginning of the movement, and it's built into something real.
I agree.
I mean, because you go to, like, for instance, I was just at a conference the past couple of days, and met some people that were in crypto since 2014. You meet someone who's in crypto since 2014, you're like, oh, wow, you've been around for a while. You meet someone from 2011 and you're like, oh my goodness. Like, yeah. But like, you know, in a few years, people will be like, you were in 2017? Oh my gosh, wow. So, it's coming.
Yeah, it is. It's a really exciting time. And it's funny how we stumble across it, but we stay. And everyone has their reasons perhaps, and some people leave, but the majority of people, I think, are just, at the very least, their interest has been piqued. And once you get to a certain point, you can't really turn back. It's like, I guess, getting a textbook of something you're really interested in and you just can't stop reading. It's like this insatiable quest for more. And that's what I think we all have. So we want to know more of what this technology can do. We're really, I certainly am, there's a lot of confidence I have in the system because of the intellect of some of the people leading these projects too. It's not just simply idealists. It's not just simply, what some people allege is the tweens, the 20-year-olds at universities trying to make enough money to buy their next Lambo. It's not like that. This is now a game changer for us all. And in the more in which we take part, the more that directly the mass adoption happens. Because again, the best means of marketing is our voice. The best means of marketing is just the conversation itself. So it's a really cool time to be in. And yeah, bullish as always.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we could talk for hours. But we might have to. We could wrap. Wendy needs to sleep, and I need to shut up. It's been fun.
Normally it's me the one that's talking, so it was nice. I got to just chill and listen to all the beautiful words you were saying and be excited.
And then we have Crypto Buddha over there, just being zen.
Yeah, he's growing his beard back.
Yeah,
I am. There was a terrible mishap, but I'm growing it back.
It looks nice.
Thank you.
It's coming around.
Yeah,
it's nice to meet you, sir.
You no longer look. You don't look as much like an Aussie bush ranger anymore. You're looking more like one of my family members back in the 1900s.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that going to be your Halloween costume?
No, you'll have to see my Halloween costume at World CryptoCon.
You're gonna see mine. I think I'm gonna win all costumes if it gets here on time. It's very simple, but it's gonna be probably the funniest.
Awesome.
I think I was born with a tie on, so I'm just going to say boring blockchain Brad and send me a tie, guys. I want a CryptoLove and Wendy O tie.
Oh my God, that'd be so cool.
I could totally dress up as you for Halloween. I could wear a tie and a short sleeve shirt.
Well, the funny thing is, Lark
and no pants.
Everyone thinks that I'm Lark. Yeah. So that's funny. Yeah. No, it's been
very
fun.
Cool. Yeah. Well. Should we have as successful a close as we had an open?
I think we should, and I think you should lead it since.
You should lead it.
Yeah.
All right. It has been an absolute pleasure. Brad, lovely as always. Wendy, lovely as always. I'm absolutely honored to be able to share this space with both of you, and everybody is blessed to be able to hear what you have to say. Subscribe to everyone's channel if you haven't, and let's get a conversation, a debate going, a moderated debate moderated by BlockchainBrad between Nouriel Rubini and either Vitalik, Hoskinson, or Andreas. That would be something to see.
Yeah, I would love to see that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Whoever can do that, make it happen.
Make it happen. Do all the things.